It starts with the smell, not the kind you notice slowly. The kind that hits you like a slap, thick, wet, alive. You don't see the bed first, you see the bucket. It sits beneath it, half hidden in shadow, sloshing softly every time the wooden frame creaks above. Something drips. Not water, not exactly. You don't want to look closer, but you do. Because someone is already in the bed. And they're not alone. You weren't supposed to be here. Not in this room, not in this century. Not breathing air that feels used before it even reaches your lungs, but here you are. Standing inside a medieval chamber where privacy doesn't exist. And cleanliness is more myth than reality. The straw mattress shifts again. A low sound escapes it. Not quite pain. Not quite pleasure. And suddenly, the question hits you. How did people live like this and still desire each other? The walls sweat. Literally. Moisture crawls down the stone like it's trying to escape the room. The air is heavy, thick with layers of human existence, unwashed skin, stale breath, fermented waste. You realize something unsettling. This isn't just a bedroom. It's everything. Sleeping space, eating space, bathroom, sometimes. Even a place for intimacy, all at once. Under the bed, the bucket shifts again. A latrine, indoor plumbing, medieval style. You start connecting the dots. People didn't just sleep here. They relieved themselves here. They got sick here. They recovered or didn't here. And then, somehow, they touched each other here. Now the sound makes more sense. That slow creaking rhythm above the bucket. That soft, uneven breathing. This isn't a private moment. It's just another moment, because privacy is a luxury no one here can afford. You take a step closer. The straw mattress dips, releasing a puff of air so foul it almost feels visible. 3 years. That's how long some of this straw has been here. 3 years of sweat. 3 years of bodily fluids. 3 years of everything no one wants to think about. And yet, people lay on it, together. Here's what matters. In this world, hygiene isn't just bad. It's misunderstood. Bathing too often? Dangerous. Clean water? Suspicious. Doctors believed opening your pores made you vulnerable to disease, to evil, to death itself. So people stayed. Sealed, layered, preserved in their own filth. And then comes the part no one talks about. Desire didn't disappear. It adapted. You hear laughter now. From outside the door. Not soft, not subtle, because nothing here is hidden. Families sleep in the same room. Servants pass through without knocking. Children wake up and watch things they don't understand. And no one pretends otherwise. So what happens to intimacy? When it's never private? When it's surrounded by smell, noise, and constant interruption? When your body itself feels contaminated? It doesn't stop. It changes, and that change is where things start to get disturbing. Because in a world where bodies are never clean, touch becomes something else. Something raw, something desperate, something tied not just to pleasure, but to survival. The mattress creaks again, louder this time. The bucket below sloshes, and you realize something that sticks with you longer than the smell. This isn't just a moment between two people. This is a system. And you haven't even seen the bathwater yet. Because somewhere else, in another room not far from here, a tub waits. The same water. Used again and again, and again. Until it becomes something else entirely. And somehow, people still step into it, together. The water that remembers the tub looks harmless at first. Wooden, deep, quiet, almost inviting. Until you notice the color. It's not clear. It's not even cloudy. It's layered. Like something has been living in it longer than it should. You step closer. The surface shifts lightly, disturbed by movement you can't quite explain. And then it hits you. This water isn't fresh. It's inherited. Someone used it yesterday, and the day before, and the week before that. In wealthier homes, bathing was a ritual. But not the kind you're imagining. Hot water was expensive. Fuel was limited. So a single bath wasn't for one person. It was for everyone. The head of the household goes first, then the next, then the next, until the water turns from warm to lukewarm, from cloudy to thick, from water to something closer to residue. By the end, the last person doesn't bathe. They endure. Now imagine stepping into that. Not alone, but with someone else. Because bathing wasn't always about cleaning. Sometimes it was one of the only socially acceptable moments of shared closeness. Skin against skin, not in privacy. But in ritual, you hesitate at the edge of the tub. But they don't. They step in without thinking. Because this is normal. Because this is what they've always known. And here's where it shifts again. You've been told your whole life that attraction is tied to cleanliness, freshness, comfort. But here, none of that exists. So what replaces it? It's part of identity, recognition, connection. The human body, unwashed for weeks, becomes something stronger, more present, almost unavoidable. And in that environment, desire doesn't fade. It sharpens. You start to understand something uncomfortable. These people didn't ignore the filth. They lived inside it. And that changed what intimacy meant. It wasn't about perfection. It was about immediacy, heat, proximity. You're in the tub now. You didn't mean to step in, but you did. The water clings to your skin in a way that feels wrong. Too thick, too warm, too familiar with too many people. And someone is already there. Closer than they should be. They don't react to you because this isn't strange. This is expected. You feel it now. That strange collision of discomfort and curiosity, the same one they must have felt. Because here's the hidden truth. In a world where disease spreads through touch, touch becomes forbidden, and anything forbidden becomes powerful. Doctors warned against too much physical closeness, too much heat, too much indulgence. They believed it weakened body, invited sickness. Corrupted the soul, which means every moment like this carried risk. Not just social risk, but physical. And that risk, it didn't stop people. It made everything more intense. The water shifts. Again. Something brushes your leg. You don't look down. Because you already know, this bath has seen too much. Held too much. Remembered too much. And yet, people kept coming back to it. Together. But the water isn't the worst part. Not even close. Because once you leave the tub, you don't get clean. You just carry everything with you, onto the bed, into the night, into the next moment. Where desire and disease stop being separate things entirely. And that's where it turns. Because what happens when sickness itself becomes part of intimacy? When desire turns against you. First, hidden under layers of clothing that haven't been washed in weeks, months, and then it spreads. You don't understand it yet. Not fully. Because no one here does. They don't know about bacteria. They don't know about infection. They don't know that what passes between bodies in these rooms doesn't just stay there. They only know one thing. Something is wrong. And somehow, it's still tied to desire. You're back in the room now. The same one. The same bed. The same bucket underneath. But it feels different. Heavier. Because now you can see it. The marks, the signs, the quiet evidence that something is moving through these people, unseen. And still, they reach for each other. Why? That question sits in your mind longer than it should. Because from your perspective, it doesn't make sense. But from theirs, it's everything. Life here is short. Unpredictable. Often brutal. So moments of closeness, of warmth, of connection, aren't optional. They're essential. Even if they come with a cost. And that's the twist. No one tells you it wasn't ignorance. Not entirely. It was acceptance. A quiet understanding that pleasure and danger were never separate things. That intimacy wasn't safe, but it was necessary. You hear the creaking again. Slower this time. Not urgency. Not passion. Something else. Something heavier. Because now There's fear mixed in, and that fear changes everything. People begin to associate desire with consequence. With punishment, with something almost moral. Religious teachings reinforce it, frame it, shape it. What if sickness isn't random? What if it's judgment? Suddenly, the body isn't just physical. It's symbolic. Every touch carries meaning. Every act carries weight. And yet, it continues because it has to. You feel it now. That strange pull. That contradiction. The closer people get, the more they risk. But the further they stay apart, the more they lose. So they choose, over and over again. And sometimes, that choice costs them everything. The room feels smaller now. The air thicker. Because you understand something you didn't before. This isn't just about poor hygiene. It's about a world where desire, disease, and belief collapse into each other. Where the body becomes a battlefield, and every moment of closeness is both comfort and threat. The bed creaks one last time. And then it stops. Not because the moment ended, but because something else did. And suddenly, you're left with a question that refuses to go away. What happens when something meant to bring people together becomes the very thing that destroys them? The things that never left. The room is empty now, but it doesn't feel empty. The smell lingers. The silence feels used. Because places like this don't forget. They absorb. They hold on to everything that happened inside them. And history? It's not clean. It never was. We like to imagine the past as distant, separate, primitive, but the truth is, it's closer than we think, because the same instincts are still there, the same contradictions, the same pull between comfort and risk. Only now, it's hidden better. Sanitized. But not gone. If you listen closely, you can still hear it. In the spaces we don't talk about, in the things we pretend don't exist. That quiet reminder that beneath everything, we're not as different as we want to believe. And if you've made it this far, you've already stepped into something most people avoid. Something buried. Something uncomfortable. Something real. This is Blood and Empire, where history doesn't disappear. It waits. And some doors, once opened, don't close the same way again.